Hello and welcome to day one of Don't Be a Starving Artist launch party. Oh. I know I've already done the welcome, but this is the first in the series of pre-record videos. They are going to be short. I know you don't have time. Nobody has time to listen to me battering on and on and on. Some will be much shorter than others. This will be the longest one probably because I'm quite old. But today I just want to tell you a wee bit about how I go up from A to B, A to Z. Well, no, that's Z, because Z is the end, and this is not the end for me. But I just wanted to tell you how I kind of go to becoming a professional artist. So for those of you who don't know me already, I'm Gillian Park, and I created Don't Be a Starving Artist programme in 2022 for people like me. Don't Be a Starving Artist programme is very much about what I wish I had known 7 years ago. 7 years ago, I became a professional artist, a chuck day job. And I wished I had known that, actually, no, 7 years ago, 13 years ago when I started painting. It's bits and pieces that I have collected. I have worked with an awful lot of people. I had 13 jobs in 7 years, 6 years. I have run publishing companies. I've been a graphic designer for 20 odd years before I did this. So I've worked in a lot of industries. I've worked in publishing, newspapers, advertising companies, design houses, Christian publishing companies. I have worked many, many places. And in that time, I picked up a lot of skills and business skills and routes to market, if you like, which wouldn't have been accessible to me if I was just an artist. So if I go back right to the very beginning, I come from very much a working class background in Ayrshire in Scotland, ex-mining village, and when I was at school, there was a huge amount of people who went to university, never mind art school. So I always had in my mind, if I can remember, that I just wanted to be a painter. And I just assumed wrongly all the way through school that I would eventually go to art school and become a painter. Apparently I was the only person who actually assumed that. It wasn't until we come to making choices for O grades, hires or A-levels, O-levels and A-levels, that I realised that although I had very much the art education in my mind, peers, parents, teachers, guidance teachers tried to steer me away from that. They wanted me to have a more secure career. They wanted it to be steady. In fact, my mum actually said once that people who went to art school were either weirdos or junkies. So that was the kind of mindset that existed then. Nobody I have ever known as I grew up was an artist, other than an art teacher. Nobody ever went to art school. There was absolutely no icon up there that we could say, well, you know, they've managed it. He came from here, went there. And that was a lot of the problem. There was no examples of success for me growing up. And therefore, parents, teachers, etc. were exactly the same. They weren't aware of anybody who had made a success as an artist. The kind of career path would be art school and teaching, and that would be it. I didn't want to be a teacher. Anyway, as it came to it, I was so dissuaded about art school that I left school with a standard range of office. I'm sighing because it's so far away from what I am, but office subjects, O grades in office subjects, A-levels in accounts and English and maths and secretarial studies, perfect to walk out and get into an office job. And that's actually what I did. I worked in the social work department, in the personnel department in social work in Ayr, and I wore, kid you not, beige skirts, sensible shoes, trench coats. I conformed and fitted into what everybody else wanted me to do, because they knew best and I didn't know, and I had no experience and I had no role models. So I lost my battle and I went into an office job at the age of 17. And I remember one day sitting, and it was a day quite like today, and I was sitting and I heard that the two chaps that I was friendly with at school had got into art school, one in Glasgow and one in Dundee. And I remember putting my head in my hands and thinking, what the fuck have I done? And apologies for the language, but it's not been the first and it'll not be the last time I've said that. It was just, it just hit me. I was absolutely gutted that I had been railroaded into this desk job. And I sat there thinking, how can I get out? I looked around, there was two women in the office, one called Jean, one called Muriel, both had been there for school. And I looked at them and I thought, this is what I'm going to become. So I knew I had to get out of there. So I ended up speaking to my parents, go back to the school and speak to the art teacher. And I went back, apologies for the pinging. And I went back to school and I did my portfolio in 3 months. And I applied only to Glasgow School of Art because that's the only place that I wanted to go. And I thought, well, do you know, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. Anyway, I got into Glasgow School of Art, thankfully, because I didn't have a plan B. And I studied graphic design because I knew, because of what had happened, that I knew I had to come out and get a job. So I studied graphic design. I graduated in 1993 and I job hopped. 6 years, I had 13 jobs since leaving art school, mainly in publishing, advertising. I initially thought I was unemployable, and that's why a few years later I chucked the job and started my own design company. But I don't think it is. It's just the fact that that we are creatives, and creative people don't work well within the traditional a traditional role, or even as a graphic designer, it's still a traditional job, and people, the rules in traditional jobs don't quite suit us because we work in a different way. Creatives work, our minds are in a different way, and I hope that resonates with a lot of you out there, because it wasn't until recently that it really clicked to me that I am not unemployable. It's just that style of job didn't suit the way I think, didn't suit the way I work. It really hampered the creativity. So in 2003, I chucked I run a publishing company in Paisley. I was a studio manager. I chucked that and I started my own design company. And I worked from 2003, 2004, and I worked in loads of different businesses, and I became essentially a packaging designer, which was great. I really loved it, and I had lovely clients. But I worked in a home office, and I remember sitting in 2010 thinking, you know, I'm about to turn 40, and I always wanted to paint. And because I studied graphic design at art school, I didn't really paint, but didn't paint. I had life drawing once a week, but I didn't actually paint. So I hadn't lifted the brush for school. I had tried my hand when daughter number 2 was born in 2003. I tried my hand thinking I'll do a wee sketch or something. And I was bloody awful, because you need to practice. We do need to practice. So I had given it up. I didn't go any further because I don't like being bad at anything. In 2010, I was really busy with my work. I had loads of design jobs on. My husband was working away most of the time. I had 2 young kids. I had a dog. I had all the extracurricular activities and the running about doing all these things for a young family. And I thought, well, how am I going to get time to paint? What am I going to paint? I don't even know if I can paint. So I started painting my shoe collection. So cut a long story short, for 2 years, I painted only shoes, irregular choice shoes. Got in touch, who found me. I then started making cards for them. And in the first year of painting the shoes, my friend was taking a stand at the Country Living Fair in Glasgow. And she says, look, do you want me to take some of your paintings? So I had only done, I did 5 ready for her 5. And they were watercolours, and I stuck them in IKEA frames, and I made 100 cards, Christmas cards, called Deck the Heels, because I think I am a wordsmith. And I made some prints, and she took them to Glasgow, and I went up to see them, and I was really excited. And that night she texted me, because I had to work and pick up kids for school, to say that 2 of the original paintings had sold, and prints and cards had sold. By the end of the 4 days, everything had sold. I had nothing left. It was an absolute sellout, and I could not believe it. And it was at that point I thought, oh, is it a fluke? Could I make a go of this? Could I be making money from painting and no design? That was as early doors as that. A couple of weeks later, I got a phone call. Actually, it was an email, and it was a woman from Clifton Hall School in Edinburgh who had said she'd picked up prints and cards, absolutely loved them. Would I consider having bringing some work to hang on their wall for sale in their cafe at the school? So it was a private school in Edinburgh, just in the outskirts of Edinburgh. And I said, yes, of course. I didn't have any paintings, so I quickly battled out a few paintings. And I took them up in the February up to Edinburgh, and I was terrified. My stomach was churning, coming up, thinking, oh my God, this could be it. This could be the start of something. I took cards, I took prints, and I took 4 paintings. And by the time I had driven home that day, she had emailed to say the first original painting had sold. Now, the paintings weren't huge prices at this point. They were £95 to £150 in between these 2. But it was just the fact that she had said they hadn't even managed to hang it on the wall before it was sold. It was very, 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 very niche. And in the Don't Be a Starving Artist programme, we talk about niche, whether you want to be Marmite, you don't want to be vanilla, you don't want to be everything to everybody. And that is a big, big, when you're starting off, especially, to have a niche is a fabulous thing to have. And we'll talk more about that during the programme. So anyway, that's how it started for there. And I just started selling more and more. I got my first studio. I applied to a WASP studio, which is it's a government-funded scheme for artists. So you have subsidised rent, etc. Lovely wee studio. That was in 2014. I also had my first residency at Dumfries House in 2014, and I had never painted landscapes before. So there was an opportunity for an Ayrshire artist to apply for 1 week. And I thought, I'm not ready for this, so I didn't do it. But things happened on the day of the deadline, the day before the deadline, that I had carved a chunk of time out to go skiing, learning to ski. I can't ski. And we got to the ski slope and it was closed. And it wasn't supposed to be closed. So I come home and I thought, somebody's sending me a sign here. So I put together 10 images and a pile of sketchbooks, and I filled in an application form, and I said why I wanted to be considered for this residency, and I sent it to Dumfries House, and I was lucky enough to get a residency and offered 2 weeks. And it totally changed my outlook as an artist. I felt I could take myself seriously because somebody else was taking me seriously. And from there, it really opened up. I cut my hours down with my day job, my design job, to 1 client. It was a consultancy, so it was a set fee every month. And I allocated so many hours to that. And then I just started trying to make a living from art. And that took various forms. And that's why we have my favourite module, multiple income streams. So in order for me to be able to chuck the design, I had to have recurring income. I had to have passive income. And I had to know that I was guaranteed to make as much money as what I did when I had the design company. And I did that by 2016. By March 2016, I left I closed the design business and became a full-time professional artist. And that was the same year that we moved here, which is Lodge Bush House, and I opened up a studio here in the old stables. And within 2 years, I'd opened a gallery space, selling my own work, all my products, and also other makers and artists' work as well. So the multiple income streams have grown massively for me. I now have 3 demographics. I have people, actually 4 demographics. So demographics as in different groups of customers who require different types of work or product or service from me. So I have people who love my work and paintings and products. I have people who want to learn to paint or get better at painting. So I can artists who want to learn. I have got artists who want to make money from the business side of things. And I've also got a corporate income stream, which is just new and facilitating corporate days within businesses. So I have lots of different ways to make money from different people. But initially, you have got one demographic and you are offering your services, your products, your work to that group of people. And that's what Don't Be a Starving Artist is about. So within less than 6 years, I had started to paint. My paint had changed vastly as I learned, because I'm a self-taught painter, and then managed to chuck the day job just under 6 years. Learning along the way, and since then learning still. During COVID, before COVID, I taught so many classes, so many different weekly classes, that all had to stop, and I pivoted the business into everything online. And now I have evergreen classes online that people can download and work through. I run programs online, like Don't Be a Starving Artist. I have hosted workshops online. So the learning curve with that is also included. And part of Don't Be a Starving Artist this year, we have got a guest expert about how to run creative classes online, creative workshops online. So that's a smashing wee addition, actually. That was there last year. You had only Matt's input with that, but now we've got a creative facilitator who teaches this as we go along as well. So that is my story so far, peeps. Last year, I also wrote a book called, funnily enough, Don't Be a Starving Artist. What else can we throw into the equation? The King has one of my paintings. He wasn't the king at the time, though, so I'm not, but I'm still going to say I'm in the King's collection. So it's been great. It's been honestly, if I had thought I could ever be where I am now when I was a student, or even 13 years ago when I was starting to paint, I would never have believed them. Absolutely never have believed them. Last year I was on a stage at Manchester in the Theatre of Dreams, talking about the value of creativity to a room full of 250 people. So it's been a massive roller coaster, and I would only be able to do that because of the different ways that I make money, the different ways I work as an artist, as opposed to the traditional paint a picture and sell, make a piece of work, sell, make a piece of work, sell. That is a merry-go-round. That is just working for a job. All right, you're doing something that you love, but can you go on a holiday and still make money? No. Well, you could go and you could be painting, but then that's no holiday. So Don't Be a Starving Artist is very much about putting into practice and trying all the different elements that you love in order to make money, doing what you love. So with that, I hope that is giving you just a wee taster. I don't want to bore everybody to death with the same old story. And day 2, tomorrow, we start the challenge. Day 2, we have 2 artists interviews, and then we have the challenge at noon. So don't miss that, because that is day 1. And if you're in the free Facebook group, there will be a post in which you put your answers for challenge of day 1 in there, and you've got down to win it, folks, because there are prizes. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I hope this was of interest, and you can maybe see that it's you know, I'm not professionally trained. I paint things that aren't the conventional sellers. I want to let you know, doesn't matter what you paint, doesn't matter, you know, what you do work-wise. Somebody out there will love it. And it's about finding that person, your ideal client, finding your niche. What are you best at? What are you in the flow? Reaching them, growing your audience, knowing how to sell to them. Even if you're an absolute introvert, if somebody said to me, oh, but you can sell, I could not, in a conventional way, I can't sell. I am an extroverted introvert, so if I can do anything online or without actually lifting a phone or chapping a door, then that's how I've got here. I have not chapped a door or lifted a phone and called anybody. So don't worry about that. I'm not going to be expecting you to do anything icky. No icky practices here. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed that, and this is just one story to add into the 10 other stories this week, which I am absolutely delighted to be hosting. So I look forward to seeing you in the group throughout the week.